Today, I'm chasing a question that's haunted me for years. How much of what we really hear is the pickup, the amp, the player? Everyone assumes these 80s classic pickups sound different, but do they really? And if they don't, what does that say about everything we think we know about playing, tone, and even the way that we listen? This all started because I recently swapped out the bridge pickup on my Charvel for a Duncan Custom. That small act of surgery got me thinking, if I'm really going to explore this, might as well go full psycho with it. Control the variables, measure the results, and maybe uncover how much of it's real versus how much is hype. Today we are testing a belief, not declaring a winner. And nah, not doing 20 pickups today, just 4. Leave those massive shootouts to the people still trying to hear the tonal differences between rosewood and rosewood. Definitely not that I'm jealous I can't compare all that cool gear or anything. Think of this as the philosopher's shootout. Smaller sample size, larger existential crisis. This is curated field research, for sure. Feel free to jump ahead to go straight to the shootout. Same rig, same strings, same picks, same licks. If these really end up sounding the same, I'll either have to sell a few of them, or perhaps buy one more to really confirm the data. Stay back if you want some gear ranting or pickup related tangents. Alright, if you're still here, welcome nerds. I just got my Charvel into peak fighting form. You might have heard it on my last video where I covered some of George Lynch and Dawkins' most underrated riffs and solos from their 80s catalog. I fell in love with this guitar from Chuck Levin's a few years back. The feel made it stand out from the other Dinkies and San Dimases I had tried. That serendipitous sum of the parts thing that you can't really put into words. It's a DK24 Fender Special Run, meaning it has some slightly limited, non-regularly mass-produced spec. In this case, it's the matte army drab finish and the original Sentient and Nazgul pickup pairing. The bridge pickup screamed and chugged, but it was also so tight and compressed and almost genty that it stopped vibing with me for a bit. And after a while, I noticed the sustain died anywhere beyond the 12th fret. I checked the action, the Floyd, the springs, the truss rod, the strings, and I just couldn't figure it out. Big thanks to Rob at Chuck Levin's who spotted the problem instantly. The neck pickup apparently was a bit too high and acting as a tone-sucking parasite. It's probably time I stopped being a child and learned how to identify some of these things on my own. Swapping the pickup basically meant that I removed half of the special from the special run, committing a modern metal sin. But it set the stage for this experiment. Moving on, I'll share the pickup details, the guitars, and then we'll run the gauntlet. You can definitely hear some subtle differences. Let's take a second to see how much of that really comes down to feel. Hand dynamics, pick attack, all that good stuff. Robotic versus natural. Again, you can hear that, but perhaps the amp being cranked is the biggest factor in capturing all those little nuances. Now assessing the candidates a bit closer, you'd typically see a super distortion hanging around this group, but I've always been partial to the Super 3. Kind of like its edgier cousin with something to prove. Higher output, more mid-range push, and a rolled off top end. More boom on the low E string, and that nice squeaky, splatty sound on the higher strings. Similar story with the slightly less common Custom. It's much warmer and spongier than the standard Custom that comes equipped with a ceramic magnet. I think it rounds this guitar out really well and gives it a bit of a vintage push. The J90C, another 80s staple, except it lurked a bit more in the if you know you know category. It finally got resurrected in the Jackson Pro Origin series line, and for a good reason. It doesn't just cut through the mix, it sorta shoulder checks it. And then there's the Les Paul, the dark horse pairing of the bunch. You don't often see a JB in one, but I think it sounds great. It's basically the unofficial house pickup of the 80s, and the Les Paul is, well, the Les Paul. And despite it being a weight-relieved Model 2, it still gives the sound a lot of body. Let's now see how they both sound as rhythm and lead tracks in a full mix. Definitely a bit harder to tell there. The guitars still cut through the mix, but once you drop them into a full band, those little micro differences really all start to blur together. And lastly, let's run a single blind test. If you suddenly can't tell which one's which, that is called expectation bias. Or as they call it in the guitar world, marketing. And just to keep things interesting, I've added a little bit of a curveball. There's an additional extra take from one of the same four guitars. See if you can catch it, and let me know what you think it might be down below. Here's the truth. There is no definitive winner, and there never is. Because every variable changes everything. Maybe the wood's denser, maybe the strings are a bit older. Maybe I felt more dialed in and cleaner on certain takes. Or maybe I just wanted one to sound better, subconsciously prioritizing the shinier, newer guitar. It's really an evaluation of how fragile the concept of best even is. Across all these, the only consistent difference I keep hearing is how hot one pickup is over another. And the only semi-objective takeaway I can provide from all this, you can consider how your pickup interacts with your guitar's wood. Warm with warm, bright with bright. But then again, what if you deliberately contrast them? Warm pickups on bright wood, bright pickups on mahogany. Finish matters too. Gloss can make the attack feel snappier, while satin allegedly lets it breathe more. Suddenly, it's not science anymore. It's feel, taste, and a little bit of delusion. And at the end of the day, it's not about finding the sound. It's about chasing the one that makes you want to keep playing. If each guitar feels different enough to make you want to plug in again tomorrow, then that's reason enough to keep them all, in my opinion. And if you're chasing that classic 80s glam tone, don't overthink it in this regard. Grab a Super Strat with whatever wood it happens to have, add in a mid-forward, slightly hot passive pickup, and you're already halfway there. The rest being, 1, your amp. Get a tube Marshall or something trying very hard to be one. And this part is critical. Push the volume until it starts to break up. The 80s lived entirely inside that moment where the amp starts to say, I really don't want to do this. Sure, there are attenuators, load boxes, and all kinds of gear to tame that literal elephant in the room. But that's got to be a rabbit hole for another day. And 2, your hands. Working on developing your own feel beyond just playing the notes is really where the magic lives. Not in a single piece of gear, but in that subtle, complex interplay of everything and the feel that you develop over time. That's enough. I'm done here. See ya.